Good evening and welcome to Poland Daily. I'm Nicholas Richardson and this is the news. Day 145 of the Russian invasion of Ukraine. President Volodymyr Zelensky has suspended Ivan Bakanov, the head of the Security Service of Ukraine, and Irina Venediktova, Prosecutor General of Ukraine, during the investigation. The reason for this is the lack of action against suspected collaborators and traitors in the two organizations. The southern and eastern parts of Ukraine are still under fire from the Russians. Over the last 24 hours, 53 missiles have fallen on the city of Nikopol, located on the right bank of the Dnieper River near Zaporizhia. In the Dnipropetrovsk region, Russian rockets ruined a granary holding over 5,000 tons of grain. The Russian attacks also targeted the bridge over the Dniester River in Zatoka. The Ukrainian army did not remain idle and destroyed several Russian ammunition and weapons warehouses with US HIMARS launchers. The Russians, fearing Ukrainian attacks, decided to withdraw part of the fleet station in the port of Sevastopol to Novorossiysk. During the night, Mykolaiv suffered a massive rocket attack from the S-300 systems with modified missiles with increased destructive effect. Several districts of the city were fired upon. Large fires broke out on the premises of two companies. The information on losses is verified on a continuing basis. In the vicinity of Bashtanka, as a result of shelling, there was a fire in the grain fields. Villages are under fire in the vicinity of Bereznev-Huvata. The Russian occupation forces are massively changing dislocation sites. Some of the buildings where they were previously located have been abandoned by them. Now they're taking up positions in densely populated areas with the idea that the Ukrainians will refrain from attacks so as not to harm the local population. Volodymyr Zelensky decided to suspend the Prosecutor General, Irina Venediktova, and the head of the Security Service of Ukraine, Ivan Bakanov. The decision to remove them from their duties is related to the tardiness in carrying out thorough reforms, consisting in cleansing the structures of state services of collaborators and traitors. They will remain suspended from their duties pending the inspection. In the event of a negative result of the investigation, a motion will be sent to Parliament for their resignation. To date, more than 650 criminal proceedings have been registered against law enforcement officials in connection with high treason and collaboration. About 200 people were informed about the possible crime. More than 60 employees of the Ukrainian Prosecutor's Office and Security Services remained in the Ukrainian territory occupied by Russian forces and cooperated with the enemy. Such a scale of crimes against the foundations of the national security of the state and the links discovered between employees of the Ukrainian security forces and Russian special services raise very serious questions to the relevant heads of these bodies. Each of these questions will receive an appropriate answer. Meanwhile, in Germany, there is a lively discussion about giving up the use of Russian gas and looking for alternative energy sources. This decade will be a transition decade, a decade in which we will build the foundation for a carbon dioxide neutral economy. Putin's brutal aggression against Ukraine, the use of energy as a weapon, soaring energy prices all encourage us to do so. We must stop using coal, oil and gas. Today, at a meeting in Brussels, the foreign ministers of the European Union debated on financial and military support for Ukraine. Despite the serious inflationary impact on the community's economies, a further €500 million has been announced to be allocated to arms supplies to Ukraine. Yesterday, in front of the Polish television headquarters in Warsaw, two men threatened to beat up TVP employees. The incident was recorded on cell phones. The incident might have been the result of aggressive rhetoric used by politicians. Polish television employees stood in front of the TVP headquarters at Warsaw Uprising Square. Telewizja Polska is asking for help to identify the attackers. This is not the first time that journalists have tried to intimidate or name-call. Unfortunately, very often the source of such tendencies in society can be traced to the language of politicians. What is said influences electoral preferences. This is well served by the use of ugly or gross words in defining an opponent, coupled with moral judgments, better, worse, good, bad. This element of political struggle became a permanent feature of Polish public debate after 2005, when the division between two groupings became entrenched on the political scene, Law and Justice and the civic platform. This kind of dichotomy of politics, that is, the division of the political scene into two opposing blocs, is such an element that promotes radicalization, including radicalization when it comes to vocabulary, in the direction of just vulgarization. Recently, there has been no shortage of calls for actions contrary to the principles of democracy and the rule of law. Donald Tusk, the head of Civic Platform, has spoken of moving people out of tenure without following the regulations. For
Do
this,
tego
you need both
potrzebna jest i
imagination and
wyobraźnia,
determination,
i
courage and
determinacja.
strength.
Od
If
Jak się
Mrs.
pani Julia
Julia
Przyłębska
Przyłębska gets
szykuje do
caught in the
fotela,
chair,
to
then
co?
what? Then you
to
have to
trzeba
break it off,
odkuć, po
simply.
prostu.
The opposition uses words that stimulate hatred, aggression. They sprout and mature on the internet. A whole sea of hate is created there. Often, by the way, this sea of hate is also organised directly by the opposition. We remember the situation in Inowrocław. We also remember the Beet Juice, the creator of which worked in the Warsaw City Hall. It is worth noting that everyone has the right to constructive criticism and their own evaluation. However, vulgar attacks and threats of beatings directed at journalists are overstepping the bounds. As far as worldview orientation is concerned, at the moment we have a large media on the one side, and on the other side of the political dispute, there is certainly a positive change compared to what it was before 2015. Unfortunately, from threats it is not far to deeds. A few days ago, the entrance to the office of Law and Justice deputies of Warsaw, Małgorzata Gosiewska and Jarosław Krajewski, was destroyed. On the 7th of June, in front of the entrance gate to PKN Orlen's headquarters in Płock, a 41-year-old attacked a security guard with a knife, and in 2011, Marek Rosiak was shot at the MP's office in Łódź. 4 people were killed and 2 wounded in a shooting at a shopping centre in Greenwood in the United States state of Indiana. One of those killed is the alleged shooter. A man armed with a rifle opened fire in a food service area at the Greenwood Park Mall. The attacker was killed by an armed civilian. Police confiscated a suspicious backpack that was located in a bathroom near the food area. Officers went to the mall around 6 p.m. in response to a report of a shooting. They searched the entire facility for further victims, but found that the shooting was confined to the food service area. In recent days, southern Europe and today the UK are on track for the hottest temperatures on record. Today, temperatures in the United Kingdom exceeded 37 degrees Celsius, with a record 40 degrees forecast for Tuesday, putting the Fire Department and Health Services on full alert.
It's very hot outside. I think staying in the shade is the best option you've got, and just keep hydrating yourself. Sunscreen obviously as well, but yeah, it's ridiculous how hot the weather's getting in Europe in general, I think.
You walk from shadow to shadow, so anywhere that you have to stay in the sun for a long time, that's off limits. So we'll have to deal with sticking in places like we are now, as opposed to walking next to the Thames or any places like that.
Out in the shade, like in Alabama, it's hot and wet, so here it's kind of dry. So we haven't really.
A heat wave reached the British Isles today. In London, temperatures reached 33 degrees Celsius as early as 9 a.m. People were lining up for drinks or sitting in shady parks eating ice cream to cool off. The hot morning did not deter tourists visiting Buckingham Palace, and crowds gathered to take photographs in front of the famous building or in Trafalgar Square. The British government has activated a national emergency alert. The Met Office warns of 2 days of unprecedented heat. According to the latest forecast, thermometers could reach up to 41 degrees Celsius in England tomorrow. This would be the highest temperature ever recorded in Great Britain. The previous record was set in Cambridge, where 38.7 degrees Celsius was recorded on the 25th of July, 2019. That's the news. Thank you for watching. Stay with us for the weather, Poland Daily Business and more programmes. But from me, it's have a good night and a better tomorrow.